What kind of optics do you like? Since you're the optics guy.
Yeah, Vortex and EOTech. I'm kind of biased to them. We used to have a big Leupold bias. I don't not like Leupold. I think their Mark 6 in particular is a really nice scope. But I prefer Vortex. Their Razor line is phenomenal.
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah. Also, I mean, it's a little bit of a price point thing. So, I mean, there's lots of really great scope companies out there if you're willing to pay for them. But we're also operating within a budget for the city. So I got to say,
$3,000 versus $1,300.
I mean, yeah, I'd love to have a Night Force, but if the city says it's too expensive, it's too expensive. What are you willing to get me? And you know what I mean? So there's some wiggle room there. Yeah, we're looking to get Night Force for our next ones. So, yeah. But who knows? Depending on how the budget's going at that time, we're probably going to go to this city and say, hey, we want these really cool Night Force scopes. And they go, not today.
Yeah.
So, yeah. How about Leupold? Fuck.
I guess I have to settle for Leupold. Oh no.
as far as red dots go, I'm partial to EOTech. I also like aim points. I don't think aim point has ever made a bad optic. Somebody will prove me wrong, but
I'm sure they made one many years ago.
I love Trigicon ACOGs. I fucking love ACOGs. They're amazing. I've owned 2. I've sold 2, and I regret selling both of them. It's an old school optic, but there's just always a soft spot in my heart for the ACOG.
But they work.
Yeah. Hollow Sun. I know people like Hollow Sun. I own a Hollow Sun mini red dot. I think it's really cool. I'm not willing to endorse it for duty use because it just doesn't have the operational history. And I'm concerned that it's stealing my credit card information and sending it to China. But Hollow Sun makes great optics. I think but they just don't have the operational track record yet that I'm willing to say, let's use this. In 10 years, that might be different. But right now, no. I mean, they do come out with a lot of cool shit. I love watching the stuff they're coming out with in SHOT Show. But there's a big difference between, look at this cool new thing that Hollow Sun is doing, and let's go this direction for real-world operations. For a gun you're plinking in your back, okay, let's try it out. But, yeah.
What guns do you like? Like what, let's just say for ARs, guns is a broad topic. What ARs would you trust your life to? Uppers, lowers, whatever?
Daniel Defense, BCM.
Yep.
That's what I'm but
BCM guy.
So operationally, Daniel Defense. But personally, because I'm a poor, Aero Precision. Because I'm a poor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have Aero Precision rifles that I'll outshoot my students that are using DDs all day. So, but I've never had a problem with Aero Precision. I consider them to be very reliable. I tell my students, if you have the money, BCM or Daniel Defense, personal preference. If you don't have the money and you want a good mid-tier rifle, Aero Precision. That's really the only ones I'd recommend. There's so many AR manufacturers out there, Palmetto State, I don't have any real-world experience with their rifles. A lot of people like them. I've heard their better and their more high-end gun.
What is that? The Saber, I believe?
Saber, right. Saber? I've heard the Saber line is great. Okay, I'm sure it is. I just haven't had any experience with it.
Yeah,
I've heard it's on par with Aero Precision's stuff. Okay, cool. But yeah, that's the short version. There's just so many manufacturers out there. Sometimes I got guys who bring really high-end-ish rifles. Geisley is one I've seen that I think the tolerances are almost too tight, and I start seeing malfunctions.
Yeah.
And with the ammo we use, because I think it's a tolerance thing. So I think Daniel Defense is kind of like the sweet spot there, where it can pretty much chew through anything and runs.
You're not the only guy I've heard that from with Geisley.
You know, there's lots of.
I've had other people tell me. I don't have personal experience with Geisleys, but I've had other people who've owned them and liked them, but their tolerances are tight and they sometimes cause problems because.
Yeah, I hate SIG.
Really?
Yeah, fucking garbage rifles. And it's anecdotal because it's just my experience with them, or students bring them through my class, and I'm just like, what a fucking hunk of garbage. Smith & Wesson M&P fills me with rage.
Really?
Fuck those guns. The Saint.
Oh well, I hate that company anyways. So
yeah,
you know.
fuck that gun. I mean, I just, these are just from things I've observed and guns that have broken that I've had to, I mean, once again, to a large degree anecdotal, but it's just what I've dealt with, what gives me a headache in my classes, because our department has a lot of different brands of guns that we can use, and then people just show up and I'm like, I got to remove that one. That one sucks. But decisions were made before I was in charge of the program, and now I got to deal with this freaking headache. You know, I had a guy the other day with he had a M&P 15, and he'd had that rifle for 15 years. And I'm like, your barrel is shot out, sir. It's a lower quality steel barrel to save money. Your barrel is clearly shot out. And he just couldn't understand that his rifle, you've shot 300 rounds through it a year for 15 years.
Yep.
It's done. Mm-hmm. Most barrels wouldn't be. This cheap barrel is, clearly because of the way it's grouping like this. I was shooting his rifle at 100 yards. It's grouping like this. I'm like, bro, your barrel's toast.
It's time to put it down. It's okay.
And he was really resistant to buying a new rifle because cops are cheap. The only thing cheaper than one cop is two cops. And I asked him, I said, how many pairs of boots have you owned in your career? Well, I get a new pair of boots every year because we get a voucher. You're right, you do. Your life doesn't depend on your boots. Your life depends on this rifle that I'm telling you is fucked. At the very least, buy a new barrel. And it just, but cops are cheap. And
so that's interesting. So your department actually doesn't provide rifles. You have to get your own personal rifle.
They provide them to SWAT. They don't provide them to, the officers, they purchase them themselves. So I have rifles that I use for patrol. I have rifles I have old patrol rifles that I still have. I have a rifle that I use for teaching VPO classes, and I use that on SWAT operations, on Overwatch stuff. I have my entry gun, which is issued to me, which is a Daniel Defense with the Colt lower, because it's a bastard fucking, It's a 30-year-old Colt lower, but it still works great, so,
Lowers, people get all obsessed with lowers.
Yeah, it's a
like lowers. I'll be honest. Like, I use arrow lowers on pretty much everything.
Yeah,
the lower really does not matter.
I agree.
It's the upper.
What I don't like is that particular lower has the 4-position stock tube instead of the 6. It's really,
okay.
I mean, it's really old. Like, it originally had the little triangle stock from, Black Hawk Down era, right?
Yep.
Like, that's how old it is. So it's only a 4-position stock instead of a 6. It's whatever. Yeah, one of the positions works fine for me, so it doesn't really matter. But it's just kind of weird when I'm trying to set it. I'm like, well, that's all I get, Whereas all my other rifles have the 6.
Better than the 2.
Yeah.
All the way in or all the way out.
Right. And I have rifles I teach with, and then rifles I do use operationally. Not that there's any of my rifles I teach with. Like, I have an Arrow Precision 12.5-inch barrel that I use to teach quite a bit, and I love that rifle. I would have no hesitation going operational with it at all. Mm-hmm. But I just don't. Yeah. So
I love BCM. To me, BCM is kind of like that perfect middle ground between an ultra high-end AR and a lower tier AR.
Yeah,
like
I would agree.
Like an Arrow or Palmetto or whatever X company.
In my opinion, like really high-end ARs, 99% of shooters do not possess the skill to really take advantage of that quality, of that that tighter tolerance, that theoretically,
especially in field positions,
right? That theoretically leads to better accuracy. They just don't. Me included, with being just a moment of humility, saying that I literally shoot almost every day, and I don't think I possess the trigger ability or the shooting ability to really take advantage of like an LMT or just these really high end guns.
Yeah.
LaRue.
The only advantage you get
Noveske.
is really in come on, brain. Reliability. Thank you, brain. That's outside of like something that's a little bit higher end versus lower end, where you go from BCM to let's just say Palmetto State Armory. You're probably going to get a more reliable gun from a BCM than you are from Palmetto State Armory.
I guess it depends. I mean, tighter tolerances can also relate to issues with ammo. Like, they can be less reliable because your tolerances are too tight. Because your gas system is so finely tuned that it just doesn't deal well with, less than ideal ammo.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just got a soft spot. I just shoot the guns I have really well, and I've outshot a lot of high-end guns. A lot of high-end guns I think are needlessly heavy. I'm like...
Daniel Defense has a monopoly on really heavy guns.
There was a guy with the LaRue in one of my classes once. Great rifle. Holy shit, was it heavy.
Yeah.
He was so proud of it. I said, bro, this rifle's way too heavy. He disagreed with me. He's a big, strong dude, too. And years later, he doesn't have the rifle anymore because it was too heavy. So...
It's like the Mark 18. I'm sorry, not the Mark 18, but the 416. Everyone obsesses over that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, have you ever picked one of those things up?
I have.
Fucking heavy.
Yeah, I did an operation with the ATF once, and they had their regional team there. This was years ago, and I had a Colt at the time. And I was marveling at their gear. And oddly enough, it was the guy who was in my academy class who later on switched to the ATF, went federal, and here he was on this, because he still lives in the same area as me. So we're together on this operation. And I'm looking, I go, oh, you got HK 416. I'm like, that's badass, man. And he goes, uh-huh. Have you ever held it? And I go, no. Yeah. Hold it. And the second I held it, I was like, oh my God. This thing's a tank.
Hate this thing.
I hate it. It's ridiculous how heavy this fucking thing is. He's like, yeah, we hate them. I'm like, fuck, that sucks. So, yeah.
The entire point of the AR is supposed to be light.
Yeah.
Why are you making it heavy?
This was somewhere around 2010, 2011 when, gas piston was the shit. And then it just, people got over it.
Yeah.
So.
If you're going to go with a gas piston AR, PWS, in my opinion, does it right. It's still light. You get the gas piston that you want, but it's still pretty light.
I don't even fuck with it. It's too heavy.
Yeah.
So, weight matters.
It's hard to beat. Yes, it's hard to beat DI.
That's actually a video I'm working on right now. I'm just gathering data about it. Is I had my old VPO rifle was a LaRue Stealth barrel, which was known for being extremely heavy. Extremely accurate, but extremely heavy.
Yeah.
And it had an Aero Precision upper, but the upper was like the enhanced upper that had their extra material on there where the castle nut's at. So it's just heavy. It's just more weight. And a relatively heavy, rail system on there, Aero's enhanced rail, I forget what they call it. The point was the gun was freaking heavy, and I've had it for years, and people would come through my class with their rifles, and I'm like, God, these are light, these are not, and here I am with this really great barrel, this really heavy profile barrel, and I love the accuracy, and I said to myself, I wonder how much better or how much worse a fluted barrel would be. I know it's going to be worse, but how much worse? Because I have a mixed history with fluted barrels, once again, anecdotal. So I said, I'm going to pull trigger on one. I don't want to buy one that's overly expensive, so I got a Ballistic Advantage 14.5-inch fluted match barrel.
Great company. They make great barrels.
But everybody's like, oh, I've had people say, oh, you gave up a LaRue Stealth for a Ballistic Advantage? Or yeah, I want to try it. Now, if I had the money, yeah, I'd get a proof research. It's just do a super cool, carbon fiber lightweight barrel, but I'm basically doing a little experiment. Why am I going to spend $1,000 on a barrel where I bought this one? I think they retail for $240. I found it on sale for $165 or something like that.
Yeah.
I put it in a separate upper with a lighter rail system, the Aero Precision Atlas rail system, which is lighter, and a regular upper. And between that and changing the stock to a lighter stock, I took 3.4 pounds off the gun. I mean, 3.4 pounds off this freaking gun. Yeah, huge. And yeah, I weighed it out, the uppers on my scale and everything to prove it. But yeah, I didn't think I was going to cause that much weight loss. So is it less accurate? Yeah. Right now, I lost about a quarter MOA of accuracy.
I'll take that to lose
3.5 pounds. Well,
pounds.
And that's the question: is that loss of accuracy at the ranges that I'm engaging with that weapon, which is basically 0 to 300? Is all that weight worth the quarter MOA better accuracy? In my opinion, it's not. Now that's a brand new barrel too. It's still breaking in. That it might be just as accurate eventually. I don't think it's going to be more accurate, but it might be just as. So is it worth the wait? I don't know. It's a personal experiment. I'm learning. I'm trying new shit. But people, I think a lot of people in AR world, they're so opinionated, and maybe their opinion is based on their own experience, which is anecdotal. Maybe it's based on just some stuff that somebody they follow on YouTube, they really respect that person's opinion, or maybe they're just brand loyal. Maybe they just spend a shitload of money on their Noveske rifle, so Noveske's the shit, and it has to be the shit. Otherwise, I've made a poor purchasing decision.
Yeah, ego goes back to ego.
Right. I'm not afraid to venture out a little bit, and if it's not too expensive, or if I can get it on T&E because of the position I work at my job, send it to me. A Steiner optic I tried out once. Steiner, hey, they want us to use their optics. They're going to send us one for free to T&E. It was their TX6i, I think. They're 1-6. I don't know. Okay. German company, can't be all bad. Freaking great optic. Amazing optic. Yep. Would I ever buy one myself? No. But after doing the T&E on it, amazing optic. Mm-hmm. So I still use Vortex.
Too expensive.
Yeah. I mean, it's comparable to the Vortex Razor.
Really?
Yeah. It wasn't too bad. And I'm like, okay, great optic. Yeah. Sounds good. But that doesn't mean I don't think it's better. It's just also very good. There's many versions of good out there. There's many great rifles, many great optics. The Vortex UH1, I've always thought that's a cool optic. It's huge. Its profile is massive. But I respect the fact that, EOTech came out with their holographic sight in 1989. And nobody else was able to figure out until Vortex. And they figured it out in 2016. Somebody's going to fact check me here on it. Maybe it was 18, somewhere in there. Yeah, right. Almost 20 years for Vortex to figure out, that's how they did it. Because they're the only two holographic sights out there, to my knowledge. Once again, someone's going to correct me. Do
you prefer hollows over dots?
No. I don't give a shit. Yeah. I think competent shooters shoot well with whatever they're given, as long as it's a competent optic, as long as it's not some cheap Chinese airsoft thing. I mean, as long as it's if it's made by Aimpoint, Vortex, EOTech, whoever, Trigicon, it's probably going to be it's probably going to be good. Otherwise, they wouldn't sell it. They do a more thorough T&E than I'll ever do. We switched to, during the whole EOTech fiasco with their thermal shifting bullshit, our team switched to the MRO for a while. And people were very opinionated. Oh my God, we can't switch to the MRO. It's going to suck. Look at the blue tint. Oh, this thing's, whatever. Trigicon MRO. Shot great.
Yeah,
it was every bit as accurate.
Those are great.
Yeah, it was every bit as accurate as the EOTech, and then we got new EOTechs when they fixed it, and now my new EOTech also shoots great. The optic isn't going to make or break me. It's not going to, win the day for me. It's a fucking dot.
Yeah, put the dot on the target, squeeze the trigger.
Right, I could put an Aimpoint RMR on there on a mount and still perform just as well.
Yeah.
I could probably put an Aimpoint M2 circa 2002 over 20-year-old optic, and I bet it still works fine, and I will perform just as well.
It's been through the entirety of the GWatt.
Yeah.
And still works.
Right. Yeah, it still works. As long as it either holds 0 or it doesn't. If it holds 0, it works.
Yep.
So, I
People
think
obsess over these things. You know, people want to obsess over gear and optics and rifles and all. It's like, how about you just train?
yeah, right. And there's something to be said for, okay, this thing has 16 brightness settings and 3, NVG settings. Okay, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
As opposed to something that's older that only has 5 settings and no night vision capability. Okay. But at the end of the day, it's still a dot.
Yeah. It's just how again, it's an easy thing to obsess about and hardline on. You could spend all this time talking shit on Reddit about someone's rifle, taking a class and training.
Mm-hmm. And
because it's easy to, you can buy gear, you can't buy knowledge and training. Well, though I guess technically you can, but you have to go buy and attend and actually go do the thing.
Well, I'm like an EOTech guy, like a hardcore EOTech guy, but I've had a lot of EOTechs where the adjustments get mushy. I don't know why. I go from getting real definitive clicks, and now it's mushy. Now it still holds a 0, but because it's so mushy, I got a question mark in my head of what's going on with it. As opposed to my, Trigicon ACOGs, it's always really distinct adjustments. My
From a mile away.
Right, aim point same way. Really distinct adjustments on like the aim point M2, M3, M4, whatever. Compare that to the Trigicon MRO. Now, when they're set, they stay, but the adjustments are so tiny. I got to get down there with my ear right on it. I feel it more than hear it, and I'm just like, click. Was that 1 or 2? And it's the adjustments on the MRO is so fine, it drives me nuts, especially when a student has one in the class. Now, once they're set, they stay. But man, those adjustments are punishingly small. So it's just little stuff, preferences and shit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But people are like, you like EOTechs? You suck.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
It's not really that big a deal. People will shoot great or poorly with all of them. Time for the post-video shameless request for support. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, please like, subscribe, hit the little bell. You guys know how YouTube works. Better yet, support my channel. Go to my website, daishotactical.com. There you can find a variety of products that I make myself at my workbench. I make a variety of slings in a bunch of different colors, quite a few different models. I also make shooting bags. Any money spent at the store really does help me moving the channel forward and making more content for you in the future. Thanks for watching.